Hi there, welcome to the new session. In this session, we are going to discuss about some of the topics which are left in Unit 3. So, in previous sessions, we have completed up to Unit 4. But before starting these video sessions, we have uh, before before that we have left just two topics in the Unit 3. So, we'll cover those two topics in Unit 3 now. So, the first topic, that is cash versus physical delivery. So you all know what is the cash delivery and physical delivery, but elaborately in case of derivatives, in the case of derivatives, we are going to discuss how cash delivery will take place and how physical delivery will take place, and what is the differences between that cash and physical delivery. We all know in the finance world, settlement of securities, including derivatives, is a business process whereby the contract is executed on a pre-decided settlement date. Uh, Not only in derivatives, in the case of shares, stock markets, every day you will see these equity, debentures, or some other kind of bonds that are traded in share market will be usually either settled by cash. It will be settled by cash settlement. Now, in case of derivatives, so derivatives will have these both settlements, cash delivery and physical delivery. And when the delivery will takes place, because all the derivatives are having pre-decided settlement dates, means the expiry date or the aspiration date of the derivative. So like interest rate derivatives, or interest rates, commodities, swaps, options, forwards, futures. So all these types of derivatives will usually have the expiry date or the aspiration date. So when they are having that expiry date, that will be the settlement date, right? So the derivatives will have the pre-decided settlement date. Suppose if it is decided on a particular date, say example, after 3 months, the last Thursday would be the settlement date. So after 3 months, on the last Thursday of that particular month, so the settlement will take place. Either the settlement can take place in cash or in physical. Right, in case of the derivatives contract, on settlement date, the seller of the contract will either deliver the actual underlying asset, which is called physical derivative, or uh, under or derivative of the underlying asset for which the derivative contract has been undertaken. Right. So uh, as I mentioned you, it is having two ways. The first way is, so the physical derivative means we are going to deliver the physical asset, means the underlying asset on what we are doing all these transactions, that underlying asset would be delivered physically. So that would be the first method. The second method is the cash settlement method, in which the cash position is transferred from buyer to seller on the settlement date. Suppose if the net position is in profits, so the additional amount that we received as profit would be transferred. Suppose if the net position is in losses, means the additional amount that we have to pay to the other party has to be transferred. So that is nothing but the cash settlement. So derivatives are having two kinds of settlements. So the one is the physical derivative, and the second settlement two is the cash settlement. And let us elaborately see what is this cash settlement first of all. So this method of settlement involves the seller of the physical instrument not delivering the underlying asset but transfers the net cash position. Means, suppose if you are doing transaction on a commodity, say example sugar cane, or say example on a crude oil. If you are doing, if you are buying crude oil, or if you are buying some kind of commodities like pepper or salt, or some metals, so iron ores, all these you are buying, so that would be the underlying asset, right? So in that, the commodity won't transfer from buyer to from seller to the buyer. So but the net position will be transferred to the buyer to the seller, or seller to the buyer, according to the situation. If you are gaining the profit, or if you are gaining the losses, so based on that your net position will be transferred. Okay, so here in cash settlement, no physical delivery will take place, means the underlying asset won't be transferred from buyer to seller or from seller to buyer. Only the net position will be transferred in between the buyer and the seller. And if you see here the example, I just gave you an example of a sugarcane futures contract. The purchases of sugarcane futures contract. Who wants to settle the contract in cash will have to pay the difference. Will have to pay the difference between the spot price of the contract as of the settlement date and the future price pre-decided or predetermined. So means here we are undergoing a futures contract. We are undergoing a futures contract of sugarcane. What is a futures contract first of all? So agreed price, agreed time, agreed time. The goods or the net position will be transferred from seller to the buyer or buyer to the seller, right? So the what is going to be transferred? So the thing which is transferring is the difference between the spot price of the contract and the settlement date. Suppose when we are deciding, when we are undergoing the contract, if we decided the price is x, okay, but after, at the end of the expiry date or at the end of the maturity date, the spot price is y. The difference between x and y has to be transferred to the opposite party, right? The purchaser is not required to take the physical ownership of the sugarcane. He is not going to take the physical ownership. He is going to take only the cash on that, right? So the cash settlement is used in the case of futures contract is monitored by the exchange, because futures contract is a standardized contract. In between the buyer and the seller, a standardized authority will be involved. We all know that. So the same example with the numbers, you can see it here. If the investor buys 100 bushels of sugar cane, right? So each bushel is at 50 rupee, is at $50 if he is agreed to buy it, right? So now after 3 months, the maturity date, they have fixed the maturity date is 3 months. Now assume that the settlement date is after 3 months, and if the price is 60, the current price means whenever they are undergoing the contract it is 50 and now it is 60. So now the exit price is 60, the entry price is 50. So the difference has to be transferred to the investor, right? So like how in case of losses, suppose if the price here, you can see agreed price is 50, means the entry price is 50. Suppose if the exit price is 45, then the difference 5 on the 100 bushels has to be debited from the investor's account. Suppose if he is gaining profit, if he is earning more, the profit excuse me, the profit has to be credited to the investor. Suppose if he is losing, the loss has to be debited from the investor's account. That is, so like how debiting and crediting, on the basis of debiting and crediting of his account, the account will be settled, the cash settlement will be done. Whereas under physical delivery or physical settlement, so that is not the process. The physical transfer of the goods is going to be happened over there, right? The settlement by physical delivery is carried out by clearing broker or an agent. So immediately after last day of trading, the regulated exchanges clearing organization shall report a sale and a purchase of underlying asset of the prior day's settlement price. So means on that particular day the settlement price will be mentioned. So trader who hold a short position in the physical delivery of the futures contract to aspiration or required to deliver the underlying asset. So physical delivery, for you to understand in short, the physical delivery can be defined as a method under which seller opts to go for the actual delivery of an underlying asset, and that too of the predetermined price, and the same time rejects the idea of cash settlement for transactions, right? So now let us see the difference between the cash settlement and the physical delivery. So in case of liquidity, in cash settlement the liquidity is high. In physical delivery, no liquidity, you'll see, right? Only the physical transfer of goods usually will takes place, so no liquidity, less liquidity. So time taken to settlement is very less. Very easily you can debit or credit money in the account of the investor. Whereas in physical delivery, it takes more time and you have to wait up to the completion of the expiry date, and cost involved is less, just debiting and crediting. Here the cost involved is more. Why cost involved is more? I mentioned you a point here. It will be carried out by clearing brokers or other agents, right? So with the clearing brokers and with the other agents, so the settlement will take place, so that you have to pay certain amount to them. So risk is less in cash settlement. In physical delivery, risk is more, because all transportation costs, some other costs, so brokerage charges. So if the transportation is not proper, damage to the goods, or sometimes you can see buns or strikes, or like that, if anything, if any uncertain conditions are existing in the market, all that you need to face. And cash settlement is very convenient, and physical delivery is not that much simple or that much easy to transfer the goods, right? So this is the cash settlement versus physical delivery. I hope you understand this. So once again, I'm in just brief manner, I'm telling you, cash settlement is, so just transferring the net position. Here you can see, just transferring the net position, right? If it is profit, adding to the investor, crediting to the investor. See, in this case, we got the profit, right? So the profit will be credited into the account of the investors. Suppose in case of losses, here we are getting this much loss, that will be debited from the investor. So just transferring the net position, whether it is profit or loss, that will be transferred between the buyer and the seller. So that is cash settlement. Whereas physical settlement, so it is not the process. So the delivery has to be carried out by an intermediary here, the clearing broker or the agent between the buyer and the seller. And immediately after completion of the trading, it is not possible. It is not possible, because it takes time to deliver the goods to the other party. And sometimes, so the idea of cash settlement is better than the physical delivery. So here we are transferring the goods physically, and we have to wait up to the expiration date. So whereas in the case of liquidity, cash settlement is having a high liquidity and physical delivery is having low liquidity, and time taken will be less in cash settlement, time taken will be more in physical delivery, and cost involved in cash settlement is very less. So cash involved in physical delivery is more. The risk is very less in cash settlement, and physical delivery the risk is more. And in case of cash settlement, it is very convenient, but whereas in physical delivery, it is not that much easy for you to transfer the goods, right? So that is cash settlement versus physical delivery. Okay, one more topic in that is role of expected spot price. How an expected spot price so will have a role in your in just buying the goods, or in selling the goods, or just making some decisions on this expected spot price. Okay, so now we all know spot price is nothing but the current market price. So future prices will converge to spot prices by the delivery date, right? Okay, so if the spot price means, if that current price, in future we may predict. So see example, today we are having a price. Okay, so now in future the price of that particular commodity or that particular asset or that particular share will be changed. So now how it will change, right? It will change on three hypotheses, right? There are three hypotheses to explain the future price or future contract converts to the expected spot price over the time. So their first hypothesis is expectations hypothesis. Okay, the first hypothesis is expectation hypothesis. Second one is normal backwardation. Third hypothesis is contango. On the basis of these three, expectation hypothesis, normal backwardation, on contango, on the basis of these three, we are going to see what is the role of expected spot price. Okay, so now here if you see, you here you can see the graph I have shown you here. Future price on y-axis, time on x-axis, and uh, here you have this expectation means the price. So what you have expected, the expected price. Now if the expected price, if you receive in future, the future price is more than what you have expected, so that situation will be called as contango, right? This is our expected price, but actually in future the price has been increased, means so more than expectations, that would be called as contango. Suppose if the if the expected price is if the future price is less than the expectation, then that would be called as normal backwardation. Okay, so now let us elaborately see what is this expected hypothesis, what is this contango, and what is this normal backwardation, right? Expectation hypothesis, it assumes that the future price will be equal to the expected spot price of the delivery date, means whatever what you have agreed to pay in future price, what you have agreed to pay in future is equal to the current market price, so means no difference, the net position is zero, means it is in equilibrium position, so it assumes that the future price will be equal to the expected spot price on the delivery date. It yields a profit neither to long position not to short position, means so no long position no short position, it is equal to the expectations, means the future price what you have expected is equal to what you are receiving, so neither long position nor short position. However, expectation hypotheses do not represent reality, because so there will be changes in the spot price. That's what you have to remember. So always we think that suppose if today's price is 100, in future also, if in future we think that the price would be increased and we agreed to pay 110 rupees, say example, right? So 110 rupees would be your future spot price. And suppose after this is after 3 months, right? So now after 3 months the amount what you have expected is 110 rupees, and the spot price is also 110 rupees, then that situation will be called as expectation hypothesis, right? So no long position or no short position, but it is just theoretical. No such reality will exist. Usually you will see up and downs in the spot prices. Coming to the next situation, that is normal backwardation. So means I in the graph I have shown you here normal backwardation, you are going to get normal backwardation when your future price is less than the expected futures spot price. So it exists when the future uh, price of the contract is below the expected spot price, so then it will be normal backwardation, right? It exists when the price of the future contract is below the expected delivery date spot price. So prices for contracts with near maturities dates are higher than those of the later maturities. If you observe that, right? It means what you are going to get the future price is less than the expectations, then that hypothesis or that situation will be called as normal backwardation. So next one is contango. Contango is nothing but here in the graph you can see your expected future price or expected spot price is more than the future price you agreed to pay future price, so it is more than that, then that situation will be called as contango. So contango exists so when the price of the future contracts is higher than the expected spot price on the delivery date, and the price of the future contracts with the later delivery dates are higher than those of the sooner delivery dates, so then that situation will be called as contango. If it is same, that is expectation hypothesis. If it is less, then that is normal backwardation. If it is more, then that situation is nothing but contango. Okay, so now the last topic in this unit is impact of financial market imperfections. Okay, so financial market imperfections, we all know the financial markets. So all the financial markets are imperfect, means so it is not according to the theory that we study, right? They'll have so many reasons behind those uh, imperfections. So now let us see what are the reasons. So there are three major reasons we are going to discuss, that is asymmetric information. The first reason is asymmetric information. The second one is limited commitment. The third one is renegotiation. Okay, so these three are the major reasons for the imperfect markets, financial imperfect markets. The first one is asymmetric information. Asymmetric means not symmetric, means it is not according to the plan or something, some deviations you can see. Here it is asymmetric information means the information that is available in the markets are not symmetric, means not equal to all the persons or not same, right? So lenders do not have full information sometimes. So if they have full information, so based on that they may take decisions whether to buy or not to buy, or to invest or not to invest, like how they'll ready to sell. So all these things uh, they'll decide based upon the information availability. Suppose if the information is not complete, then if the information is incomplete, then so either the borrower or the lender both cannot take a good decision, right? So if you see, if you observe in the market, information is available about the buyer or about the seller or about the company. So all these things, information is available but not full information. So no full information is available. So that is whether they have the capacity to pay back their debts or not. It is called asymmetric information, right? So next one is limited commitment. Limited commitment means committed to the opposite party. And many times I mentioned you that default default risk or credit default. So limited commitment. So sometimes lender need to trust the borrower to commit and to pay back his or her debt, or there needs to a third party to enforce the contract, which is difficult, right? So sometimes we may trust and we may give at the other party. Sometimes they may just they become abscond, or they may these sometimes the banks may become bankruptcy. All these things, all these situations may happen. All these situations will rise because of the limited commitment. So they are not uh, committed to the agreement what they are making, right? So we usually trust people, or we usually trust the institutions, but uh, it won't get that the trust sometimes maybe fail. So because of that, the borrower or sometimes the lender has to face certain problems. So like these credit default or a default risk, all these things will exist. So that is the second reason for market imperfections. So third reason is renegotiation. Renegotiation means we all know negotiation, just discussing about the prices, or some kind of some kind of means arguments, we can say arguments between a buyer or seller, or bargaining between a buyer or seller. So now renegotiation also will takes place sometimes, right? Because the exchange do not happen at the same time. Once buying or selling is happening, so exchange may not happen at that particular time itself in the markets, right? In the financial markets it may take some time. In order to get settlement, in case of stock markets it may take t plus 2 days, means trading day plus 2 days may take in order to get settled. In case of derivatives, the settlement may take place after 3 months, or after 6 months, or after 12 months. So there is lot of time between the exchange, right? So in that time there is a chance to go for renegotiation. So all these things were the major reasons for market imperfections, right? So the market imperfection major reasons that we discussed are asymmetric information, limited commitment, and renegotiations. Because of that, so these will be the impacts. So credit rationing is one of the result of the imperfect markets. Credit rationing means limited by the lenders of the supply, means as I told you here, because of this limited commitment, so we usually trust people, but if they break the trust, so then this situation will come into existence. So means we usually don't believe, or we limit our range of credit, means whenever we are giving credit to the opposite person, so we may have some kind of rangings, we may limit them. or we don't provide additional supplies of credit to them. So because of this factor like limited commitment, you'll doubt whether they'll be committed to the agreement or not. So on that basis, you may take some kind of assurances or some kind of limits you'll uh, precisely fix. So all these things will lead you to credit rationing. So means you limit that. And adverse selection, because of lack of information, so you may select based on the information what you have. Suppose if complete information is not available in the market, so then you will take adverse decisions or adverse selection. Sometimes those selections will give you a huge impact, right? Like bad selections, because of the bad selection it will give you huge impact on your turnover or on your net position. So that would be one of the impact. And also limited commitment leads to default risk or bankruptcy. That's what already we discussed in this point. So the all these are all the consequences or the impacts that we are going to face or that we are going to get by market imperfection, right? So all these are all the impacts and consequences of imperfect markets. And in this session, if you have we discussed about cash delivery versus physical delivery, role of expected spot price in that three situations, like expectation hypothesis, normal backwardation, contango, and one more important topic, that is financial market imperfections. Okay, so with this we covered some of the leftover topics in unit 3, and we completed our syllabus with this. So just go through all the sessions and come to me or reach me for the doubts. Thank you.